Here are two things that happened at the same company in the same week. An employee lost their badge in the parking lot, and a typhoon knocked out the region that manufactures 40% of the company's product. One of these is an incident. One of these is a crisis. And the difference between them is in size. It's a question almost nobody outside the industry can answer. Who gets to decide what happens next? For the badge, a security supervisor handles it before lunch. For the typhoon, a team most employees have never heard of assembles within the hour, and the decisions they make in the next 24 will touch every person, every site, and every dollar the company has. Last video we went inside the GSOC, the room that makes the 2 a.m. phone call. Today we go into one team that answers it, and stick around, because at the end, I'll tell you the one trait hiring managers actually look for in crisis people, and it's not calm under pressure. In this video, what crisis management actually is, and how it differs from business continuity and resiliency teams. What separates a true crisis from an everyday incident. Why companies need a dedicated crisis function and how these functions differ from what a security supervisor or manager handles, who actually sits on a crisis management team, and the kinds of decisions this team makes that nobody else in the company is allowed to make. So let's climb. First, let's untangle three terms that get used interchangeably, because in interviews, knowing the difference makes you sound like you've already worked in the room. Crisis management is the response function. When something is actively going wrong, right now, today, this is the team that assembles, assesses, decides, and directs. Think of them as the company's emergency room doctors. Business continuity is the planning function. Before anything goes wrong, this team asks, if we lost this building, this system, this supplier, how would the business keep operating? They write the recovery plans. They identify which processes can't be down for more than a day, and they make sure there's a backup for the things that matter. If crisis management is the ER doctor, business continuity is the person who designed the hospital so the ER exists. Resiliency is the umbrella some companies put over both. The idea that planning, response, and recovery should live under one roof so they talk to each other. In a mature program, business continuity built the playbook, crisis management runs it under fire, and resiliency is the name on the door. Here's what matters for your career. These are often the same team wearing different hats, planning all year, responding when it breaks. Small companies might have one person doing all three. Large companies might have 3 separate teams. When you're job hunting, search all 3 terms. The postings are describing neighbors on the same street. Now the badge and the typhoon scenarios from the start of the video. What actually makes something a crisis? It's not size and it's not drama. Here's the test the industry uses in plain English. An incident is something that can be handled by the people and playbooks already in place. A door alarm, a medical emergency on site, a protest outside the lobby. These might be serious, someone's health might be at stake, but the response is known, the authority is clear, and the impact stays contained. The GSOC and on-site teams run incidents all day, every day. A crisis is something that exceeds the standing playbook. The impact crosses multiple business functions. The right answer isn't obvious, and, here's the key, the decisions required are above anyone's normal authority. Nobody's job description covers, should we shut down our largest office for a week? That's what makes it a crisis. Not the chaos, but the fact that the company's normal decision-making machinery doesn't have a slot for it. One more wrinkle, incidents can become crises. The protest outside the lobby is an incident, until it grows, blocks the parking structure, makes national news, and employees are afraid to come to work. Part of the crisis team's craft is watching incidents for the moment they start crossing that line. And who's watching first? Say it with me, the GSOC. Fair question you should be asking. Companies have security supervisors, security managers, directors. When something goes wrong, why isn't it just their job? Why does this team exist at all? This next part is the thing most people get wrong about crisis management, including some people in security. A security supervisor managing a situation is typically doing tactical response at one site. Secure the scene, protect people, coordinate with police, restore order. They're good at it, and for most events that's the whole job. But remember the typhoon. The security question, is everyone safe, is only the first question. The next ones are, do we shut down the plant? Do we air freight product from another region at triple cost? What do we tell customers about delays? What do we tell investors? Do we pay employees who can't come to work? Every one of those is a different department's problem, and no single department can answer them all. Legal's perfect answer might be a PR disaster, and the fastest operational fix might create a safety risk. That's why crisis management exists. It's not a supervisor, it's a facilitation function. The team that gets the right leaders from every affected function into one room, feeds them a common picture of the facts, surfaces those competing priorities we talked about in the GSOC video, and drives them to a decision with a deadline. The crisis manager often isn't the most senior person in the room, and they're almost never the expert on the problem. Their skill is running the room so the experts converge instead of colliding. If you've been in the military, this will feel familiar. It's a command post. The battle captain doesn't fly the aircraft or fire the weapon. They synchronize the people who do. Vets, that's your translation layer for this entire career field. So who's actually at the table? If you watch the GSOC video, you already met most of them as stakeholders. In a crisis, they stop being stakeholders and become the team. Security, running facts from the ground, often through the GSOC. HR, everything touching employees. Accountability, benefits, emergency support, legal, liability, obligations, what we can and can't say, internal and external communications, and what we tell employees, customers, and the press, in that tone-perfect language we talked about last time. Facilities and EHS, is the building safe? Are we compliant? Can people physically return? IT, because half of modern crises are system outages, and the other half need systems to respond. Finance, what this costs and what we're authorized to spend. And the affected business unit itself, the committee chairs from the last video, the senior leaders whose teams live in that building or depend on that supply chain. Depending on your company's industry, this group might have more or less different business verticals included. Chairing it, a crisis manager or crisis director, sometimes under the CSO, sometimes under a resiliency office, sometimes reporting straight to the executive suite. And practically, the room runs in two layers, a working team doing the coordination and an executive layer that gets the summarized picture and makes the calls with company-wide consequences. Knowing which decision belongs in which layer is half the discipline. And what decisions actually come out of that room, the ones nobody else is allowed to make, a sample from real crisis playbooks. Do we close a site? And for how long? Knowing a day of lost productivity at a major office can mean millions? Do we evacuate or relocate people, including pulling travelers or expats out of a country? Do we activate the continuity plan, shift production, fail over systems, switch suppliers? What do we communicate, when, and to whom? Because saying nothing is also a decision, and usually a bad one. Do we spend emergency money, charter flights, emergency vendors, temporary housing, and the quiet one that shapes all the others? When do we stand down? When is this over, and who says so? Notice what every one of those has in common. People, assets, operations, reputation, the 4 impact lenses from the GSOC video. The crisis team is just those 4 lenses, given a room, a deadline, and the authority to act. Which brings us to the promise from the top. The trade hiring managers actually look for in crisis people. Everyone assumes it's calm under pressure, and sure, panicking doesn't help, but calm is table stakes. The real trait is this, the discipline to ask questions before offering answers. The worst person in a crisis room is the confident one with an immediate solution to a problem nobody's finished defining. The best person asks, what do we actually know, and how do we know it? What don't we know yet? Who else is affected that isn't in this room? What decision has to be made? By when? And what happens if we wait? That's it. That's the craft. Facilitation, not heroics. And here's why that's good news for you. You can practice this at your current level. This week. Next incident you're near, at a guard desk, in a GSOC seat, anywhere. Write down the 5 questions your manager asked first. That list is the beginning of your crisis playbook, and mentioning it in an interview says, crisis ready, better than any certification. Then, when you're ready for paper credentials, FEMA's incident command courses are free and respected, and business continuity courses take you the rest of the way. Students, join your campus emergency management club or volunteer with local emergency services. It's the same muscle. If you're thinking about grad school, consider looking for programs at accredited nonprofit universities that involve emergency and disaster management, threat and response management, business security and resilience, or something along those lines. Vets, you've run this playbook under worse conditions. Your job is learning the corporate vocabulary, and this video just gave it to you. So, crisis management. The response half of resiliency, the room where incidents that outgrow the playbook go, the facilitators who turn 8 competing departments into one decision. It's the straightest line from security to the executive suite, and now you know why. It's the only room where security, legal, finance, and the business sit down as equals and have to agree.
I'm the Security Sherpa. This channel hands you the map nobody handed me, one route at a time. Drop a comment. Which route gets mapped next? And if you've ever sat in a real crisis room, tell me the first question your team asked. I'll be reading. See you at the next camp.